and welcome back to the BWIB interview series where we talk to some fun members and hear more about their journeys at Cal, journeys in their career paths. And today I have the lovely Katya with me. So Katya, if you want to introduce yourself, your year, major, activities, all the fun stuff.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Katya. I am a senior. This is my last semester. I'm studying business administration, and this year I'm part of Berkeley Women in Business, and that's really the only club I'm a part of. And I'm the VP of Corporate Relations along with Brianna.
Lovely. And do you want to talk a little bit about your career path going forward and like kind of the role that you are going to be talking to us about today?
Yeah, so post-grad, I'm going to be starting my career at Ross Stores as an assistant buyer. And I've always wanted to be in retail. Like, it's just always been an interest of mine. And I didn't really take it seriously as a viable path until I applied for a scholarship. It's called like the Fashion Scholarship Fund, and Haas has a partnership with them. So I applied to the scholarship, and through the scholarship, I got connected with a recruiter at Ross, and he reached out to me and he kind of described what being a buyer is like. And it was really interesting to me because a lot of it sounded like marketing, but a very analytical side of marketing and also very business oriented. And so I kind of got excited about it after hearing about what it's like. I ended up continuing with the interview process and was able to intern with them over the summer, and I'll be working with them full time in June. So really excited about that.
Awesome. And then can you talk a little bit about like what you do as a buyer, maybe like day-to-day, weekly type of tasks?
Yeah, so as an assistant buyer, basically my purpose is like twofold. One, I'm assisting the main buyer that I'm assigned to, and then I'm also basically building my knowledge of what the product is like and how, for example, like that would mean doing competitive research as in going into like the stores and doing comps shopping. So that's one side of it. And the other side is like helping my buyers. So that might be like with managing our vendor relationships. It might be with like analyzing sales reports and working with the fashion office to see what trends are popping, and then seeing what our customer is liking and what's performing well in the stores, and trying to see where there's an overlap between the two.
Awesome. And then was there kind of like, I know you already mentioned the sort of process of getting interested into being a buyer or an assistant buyer, but is there a certain reason like why you chose to do this role over other roles?
Is that like in relation to the company in general, or?
Um, or I don't know, like in the past, like did you have other like interests that you pursued and you're like, okay, this isn't for me, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So I interned with Hero Cosmetics last summer as well, in addition to Ross. And both were like, the Hero Cosmetics one was a marketing internship, but it was a lot more of like focusing on brand partnerships, and like social media marketing. So like what you think of marketing, like in the real world, that's like what it was. Um, and I loved that experience. It was a startup, and the people who I was working with, they were amazing and so supportive of pushing me to like take autonomy in all the projects that I was doing. And I really enjoyed my time there. But also, like I said, like I've always been interested in retail and fashion, and this is the first time I really had the opportunity and had a foot in the door. And so I just couldn't imagine like giving that up. And so that's why I decided to, pursue my option with Ross. And yeah, I'm really excited to learn more about it. So we'll see.
Awesome. And what did like the application and interview process look like? Like, what kind of questions did they ask? And you mentioned like being in touch with the recruiter and stuff. Yeah, just overall.
Yeah. So I think so for me, when the recruiter reached out and our initial conversation was really just like a coffee chat, I didn't know a lot about what the role entailed. And so it was just me asking like, what do I do? Like, what is my day to day? And just asking questions about what is the work, how do I move up, what's the structure of progress like once you're in this. So that was our initial conversation, and then the next thing was basically the interviews. And so it was, for Ross, it was pretty intense. It was 90-minute interview, 30 minutes per person. So there were 3 different people I interviewed with back to back. And actually, like I know it sounds like long and intense, and maybe like compared to other like consulting or other things, it may not be as intense, but I didn't expect it to be like that for sure. It was like a
Yeah.
surprise for me. But the experience was actually, I felt like it was so conversational. Like there were a lot more behavioral questions, and I could tell that the company was like really just interested in hearing that I was curious and that I was open to learning, and that I just had like a passion for product, because that's the most important thing in retail is you have to care about the product and want to learn how it works. Like what is the consumer looking for, how do we provide that? So as long as you can show that you're interested and you have like the leadership experience and those general behavioral questions that usually come up, then like you're kind of set to go. At least that was my experience at Ross.
Mhm. And how did you prepare? You mentioned behavioral questions, but were there any like, I don't know, questions that kind of shook you up or anything like that?
I would just say like one, it was so basically how I prepared was I just like Googled behavioral questions. I made a master list of like all these questions. And how I typically prepare for like any position is I'll think of all the experiences I can talk about. So whether that's like in WIB or I was a part of BCEC at a time. So like looking at all the things that I did. And like after I have that list, I look at my questions and I fit those experiences to match the questions and pull out like all the things that I've done and how it can fit. So that's the process that I went through. In terms of like any surprise questions, I think probably the one that was most surprising was like in terms of Excel. That's something that you have to like know going into this role, and it's a lot, we work with it a lot. And so I didn't expect for there to be a little technical portion, but I was kind of asked like to describe some of the Excel terms and things that I've used in the past to show that I have some basic knowledge of how to use the platform. But other than that, it was really basically just behavioral and getting to know like how I am and the experiences that I've had have turned out.
That's great, guys. Just say VLOOKUP. No, I'm kidding.
I did say that. You
Good. Yeah.
guessed it.
Yes, we love that. Um, and then, talking about like that kind of like more technical portion of the interview, like, did you have any classes that you took at Berkeley that prepared you, or do you think it was more so like real world experiences, like interviewing for clubs and stuff that were like, I guess helpful, or I guess both of them are helpful, but like, you know what I mean? Like, if there's
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And I think I got lucky because that semester that I was interviewing with Ross, I was taking Intro to Business Analytics, which is the
oh,
class at Haas that teaches you everything about Excel. So I just lucked out because I mean, before that class, I really didn't need to use Excel for anything. And so it was just perfect timing that I was taking that class at the time of my interviews, and I could pull up all those fancy terms that were like fresh in my mind. So I think like that class was really helpful in like making me feel comfortable using Excel. Like I definitely for my role like don't need to know to the extent in that class like all those things we learn. I don't need to know all of that, but just the functions and getting comfortable with it is definitely going to be super helpful for the role that I'm going into. So yeah, I'd say that class really helped me for this future role.
great. And then how did like being in BCEC and WIB help you in your career, if at all?
Yeah, I'd say with BC, I'll start with BCEC. So I was part of BCEC for a semester. I joined my second semester, so like last spring, right before everything went online or in the middle of it. I'd say for BCEC, I joined the fashion committee because I'm interested in fashion, and I'm glad I did because I just like learned that it really is something that I enjoy like talking about, and I love being around other people that are also interested in that industry. We got to work on like a social media consulting project, so getting to actually work with a client and solving a business problem and combining that with an industry that I'm interested in really like showed me that yeah, I think this is something I could see myself doing. So in terms of that, like BCEC really helped. But on the other hand, WIB, I joined WIB my first semester, and now I've almost been here for 2 years. So really, my entire Berkeley experience, WIB really shaped that, and I it has a big role to play with it. Shout out to Colette and Emma. When I first started, they really helped me learn how to feel comfortable networking and communicating professionally with sponsors and just professionals in general. And I think just being able to hold a professional conversation and networking, really like being able to build a personal connection with someone is one of the most important things you can do to set yourself apart when it comes to getting a position at a company, because we're all Berkeley students, we're all really smart, but like at the end of the day, there's also has to be the side of like you personally connecting with that person and the other person seeing that they can work with you. So I think being a part of WIB played a huge part in me just like feeling so comfortable just talking to people and professionals. I'm so happy that I found this community when I got here.
That's so sweet. Yes, we love Boyab, guys, and
Yeah.
UC. And also, just for context, like people might be a little bit confused. Katya is a transfer, so when she said like second semester and she's like a senior, it's like what? But she's a transfer.
Yes.
And I was
Yeah.
actually gonna ask, like being a transfer, like did you use that background? Like how has that impacted like you? And honestly, I feel like that's like a large part of like my friends who are transfers identity. Like did that help you in like navigating interviews in your professional life? Like how did that impact everything?
Yeah. I think so. When I came in, Haas actually has a program called Pre-Core, and it's basically all the transfer students that are studying business can take like these 2 summer classes together. And so when I came in, I participated in that. And I mean, there's like 70 of us in that class. I made like 70 friends that summer. So
Oh,
coming in from like not knowing anybody, moving from LA to Berkeley, like a lot of new things were happening. And so just having that community of people who were in the same exact boat as me was like super helpful to me getting accustomed to being at Berkeley. So just from like a mental capacity, like I think that really helped me settle in. I think like one thing coming in as a transfer that was a little harder was like now like looking back, I see it. I feel like there's so many things you learn when you're at Berkeley, like in terms of how many opportunities you have. And like from the classes I've been taking this past semester, I've learned that I'm really like entrepreneurship as well. And so I think like having the opportunity when you come in as like a freshman, you have all these chances to like go to these events at Berkeley and like meet all these people and learn about all these different career paths. And that's not something that I had when I was at CC. So I think like if there's anything I could say is like if you do come in as a transfer or if you're starting as a freshman, like definitely take advantage of like all those opportunities, because it really helps you like figure out what you want to do with your life. Like, it's not until you try these things that you like figure out if you like it. Like it's easy to hear and you're like, oh, that sounds interesting, and then you actually do it and you're like, no, this was horrible, I don't want to do that ever again. So like you really got to just put yourself out there. And I think like to anyone who's coming in as a transfer or freshman, like just go and try everything that you possibly can with the 2 or 4 years that you have, because it'll really help you figure out and kind of speed up the process of like figuring out what you want to do in the future.
this is hitting me, y'all. I need to hear you guys too. And
I'm
also,
glad.
yeah, it's also interesting with like the virtual semester and stuff. And yes, everybody go to your events. Yes. Okay, let me see. I guess like kind of last question because just for the sake of time, like if you had any advice, first of all, you gave amazing advice already, but if you had like any advice to people who are like about to enter Berkeley or anybody who's interested in like your career path, like is there anything that you would say to them right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just a continuation of what I've been saying, but I'll say, like, don't let fear stop you from trying what you want. I think, like, we come in and we see people who have progressed more than we have, or in our areas of their life where they feel like they look like they've got everything figured out, but like we make all these assumptions about people to stop ourselves from progressing. So what I'm saying is like just worry about yourself. If you want to try something, try it. Don't worry about if you're bad at it, you're good at it. It doesn't matter. Like as long as you want to do something, you're in the great place to try all these things. So don't let your fear stop you from taking advantage of the opportunities you have at Berkeley. That's what I'd say.
That is amazing advice, guys. We are fearless. Taylor Swift vibes. Yes. Okay. I think that wraps us up for today. Thank you so much, Katya, for coming and speaking with me. And thank you to everybody who watched. Subscribe and like. No shame in telling people to do that. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. And goodbye. We're waving.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.